Hello yogis. Today's class is going to be a level 1-2 Hatha style class, and we are going to focus on stability through the shoulders. So I know we've done different kinds of shoulder work in previous classes. This class will then take that work and we'll review a lot of it, and then we're going to maybe start to play around with balancing on one hand in side plank and maybe one hand in plank pose, and then eventually we'll work up to some ways to approach learning bakasana, which is an arm balance, crow pose. And even if you're still working on your shoulder strength and you don't think that an arm balance is going to be in your world today, there's lots in this class for you as well. So crow pose, or bakasana, is basically this shape tipped onto my hands. So I'll show you what it looks like. There are two ways to practice it. One is from this position, hugging the knees to the outer arms, and then tipping forward and bringing the toes to touch. That's one way to practice bakasana. Another way is requires a little bit less of that getting deep inside the thighs, and it's actually a little bit higher. You place the knee into kind of this little notch in your armpit, and then tip your weight forward, and that version looks more like this. And this version you can actually even do with the knees way further down by the elbows, and you see that that requires even less hip flexibility to perform. So three kind of options for bakasana, and we'll play around with those here. Okay, so come out of your malasana and bring your hands behind your blocks. Come back to all fours. And first we're just going to get used to the idea of putting some weight into the blocks so that we can play around with the legs. So corkscrew your hands into the floor, dip your weight forward, and place your shoulders on the blocks. And notice if, like maybe you have to move the blocks a little bit closer together, or what have you. But once your shoulders are on the blocks, corkscrew your hands into the floor and pull your elbows to the midline. Okay, and then tuck your toes and come up on, like lift your knees up off of the floor. And notice how close your face is to the floor, and that's okay. That's why I said maybe maybe you could put a pillow there. That'd be a good idea if you're afraid. Okay. Just kind of get used to the idea of having weight in the blocks. Maybe you walk your feet a little bit closer towards you. Look forward so that your head's not on the floor. Okay, and then just see how much weight can you tip into the blocks. Maybe you can even walk forward further, but push your hands into the floor. Okay, and then corkscrew your hands into the floor. What would it take to hover your shoulders off the blocks here? Maybe it doesn't happen, but just that action. You're very strong here. And then set your knees down, come up off of your blocks, tuck your toes, come back to your malasana, and breathe. Okay, so next is going to be set the shoulders on the blocks, tiptoe the feet in, and try to bring your knee either to the outside, to your tricep, to your armpit. Okay, so you can try one of those three variations. Depending on your flexibility, one is likely going to feel better than the rest. Okay, so from your malasana, come back to hands behind the blocks, and this time, you can start on all fours, or maybe you want to come in at it from the top. It's a little more challenging. Corkscrew your hands into the floor, tip your weight forward, and set your shoulders onto the blocks. Okay, and then tiptoe your feet in a little bit farther, and lift your left leg up. And maybe you just bring your left knee right to the tip of your elbow. There's like this little notch there. It's kind of handy. And then, or maybe you bring it all the way up close to the armpit, or maybe you bring it to the outside of the tricep and squeeze it in there. So find one that works for you, and then set the left foot down, lift the right foot. Bring the right knee maybe to the tip of the elbow,
Maybe all the way up into the armpit. Maybe outside the arm is better for you. Squeeze it into the outside of the arm, and then set the right foot down. Set your knees down, and sit back. Tuck your toes, come back to your malasana. Okay, so you kind of now know the 3 knee positions, and one of them maybe you select for this next little bit, okay? So hands behind the blocks, and you can do it from all 4s. Just bring your shoulders to the blocks, okay? Tuck your toes, corkscrew your hands into the floor, pull your elbows to the midline, lift your knees up off of the floor. Look forward, and then walk your toes in, and lift your left leg. Bend the knee, so pull the left heel to the butt, keep pushing the hands into the floor, and bring your left knee to your tricep. So you can either hug it to the outside or you can set it on top of the tricep. And then maybe you bring the right knee to the right tricep. Keep looking forward, and then see if you can tip some weight back into your hands a little bit more. Maybe you can lift yourself up off the blocks. Okay? Maybe not. Maybe it's just an attempt. Okay? And then set your feet down, come back to your malasana. Okay, so that was the knee to tricep version. Let's all try together the knees squeezing in version. So it will feel a lot like this, malasana. Okay, so squeezing the knees to the outer triceps. Okay, so kind of walk your malasana forward so that you're closer to your blocks. Okay, and try to stay in this tight little position and bring your hands to behind your blocks. Okay, and then tip yourself forward. And maybe you don't go all the way to the blocks this time. Maybe you just stay hovering, but the blocks are there to catch you if you fall, okay? So just tip your weight forward, and maybe you pick your left foot up off the floor. Maybe you set it down and then pick up the right foot off the floor. Or maybe you do both. Keep squeezing the knees to the outer armpits. Outer triceps. See, armpits, I can't get away from it. And the blocks are there to catch you if needed. And then set the feet down and come back to malasana.